Welcome to the first ever episode of Machines in Medicine, a new podcast from Syntegon. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Dr. Laura Moody, and I'm Director of Product Management for Syntegon in North America. On today's episode, Annex 1 marks the spot. We'll be discussing the European Medicine Agency's Annex 1 revision. Let's start with a little history lesson. The European Medicine Agency, or EMA for short, protects and promotes human and animal health by evaluating and monitoring medicines within the European Union. Much like the FDA in the United States, EMA is highly involved in compliance with GMP, or Good Manufacturing Practices. GMP is a universal set of quality standards that drug manufacturers must comply with if they intend to market in the European Union. The US enforces GMP compliance too, but that's through the FDA channel. Annex 1 is a recent revision to the GMP standards that we will dissect today. Joining me is my colleague, Dr. Johannes Roschnabel. Johannes is a studied chemist with a PhD from Tübingen University. Johannes has more than 20 years of experience in pharma packaging with roles in product management for barrier systems, as a team lead in process development, as a chief pharma expert for a business unit, and most recently as a director of advanced technology development and innovation at Syntegon Technology, which is formerly Bosch Packaging in Weiblingen, Germany. Johannes holds a variety of patents, has published many scientific papers, and is a frequent speaker at pharma events. Currently, Johannes is the chair of the Aseptic Processing Community of Practice at the ISPE Germany, Austria, and Switzerland chapter. Welcome, Dr. Roschnabel. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the first episode of Machines in Medicine. What a cool concept. And I'm excited to talk about the EMA Annex 1. Annex marks the spot.
I hope you thought that was clever and not just a silly play on words, but really, Annex does mark the spot, especially for pharmaceutical manufacturers. Glad to have you here. So this is such a hot topic in the industry, and it's really timely that we're here chatting for our inaugural podcast. First of all, in just a couple sentences, can you tell our listeners what Annex 1 is?
Of course, as you were stating before about GMP, Annex 1 is a GMP document published by the European Commission and dedicated to the manufacturing of sterile medicinal products. That means it is focused on manufacturing of pharmaceutical drug products. So not so much yet on ATMPs, advanced therapy medical products, but very much focused on pharmaceutical drugs. And this includes a wide range of processes, formulation, disinfection, sterilization processes. It includes clean room layout and clean room management, including environmental monitoring, clean media generation. It's about filling, about inspection of filled goods, operator gowning and sampling. It's about testing of a wide range of sterile pack styles, and it covers glass containers, plastic ampoules, and bags. Annex 1 aims on very different medicines. So it covers the whole range of pharmaceutical products, from monoclonal antibodies for immunotherapies. It covers small molecules, those on the essential drug list, as well as those for chemotherapies. It covers peptides, hormones, and also vaccines. So that's the full range of what you can buy in a pharmacy.
Thanks for that. So Annex 1 is focused, but it sounds like it has a pretty broad range of topics that it covers.
Indeed, it has a huge scope, and therefore the revision will generate a big impact in the manufacturing of medicines. It means that all pharmaceutical companies that produce sterile medicinal products must comply with these regulations in Annex 1 if they want to market to the EU. And also on a global perspective, the document is harmonized between the EMA and the PICS, which is the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, located in Geneva, which has 54 member countries, including the US. And this time, Annex 1 was also set up together with WHO. By the way, the global approach was one of the reasons why it took so long to get the final version. 10 years from first drafts to the final published version.
I didn't realize the WHO was not involved in previous versions of Annex 1.
It was not as much as this time, and still it's not clear how much WHO is going to adapt. But we will see a lot, at least parts of the Annex 1 in their guidelines and reports, and thereby it will create global impact. PICS will take the Annex 1 one-to-one into their guidelines. So it's a blueprint. The guidelines of PICS are blueprints of their guidelines, are blueprints of the Annex 1. They might only add some recommendations to parts which need a bit more of interpretation, as we had it in the past. The recommendations for isolators was an additional document, and we will see something like that also for the new Annex 1, I'm sure.
Thank you for that clarification. We both know Annex 1 in and of itself is not new. If I recall correctly, the first version of Annex 1 came out in 1989 when big hair and bigger shoulder pads were all the rage. There have been about 5 adaptations since then. So these include classification of clean rooms, vial sealing, media simulation, and so on and so forth. Essentially just keeping up with the times.
Yes, a total revision of Annex 1 was requested already in 2012. Remember, the actual version is from 2008. And so there was some need to adapt to new technologies. And they asked in a draft, 2017, industry for consultation. And what they got back was more than 6,000 comments. And they tried to put that together in an Excel sheet, which was like 300 pages to get an overview of all of that. And then it took some years to get out another draft, which was then 2020. And this time they thought it's not a good idea to ask industry again. This time they asked the industry association. So they get a little bit of aggregated commenting, but it ended up in, again, more than 2,000 comments. And then it took, again, 2 years till they finalized the version we have now. And they did several rounds with WHO and PICS and even FDA as a member of PICS to come to the final version. So it's really a big impact right now. And I remember very well the day it was published. Actually, the Annex 1 was published the day I was on ACHEMA show to take part in a podium organized by the ISPE on Annex 1. And so we had the actual version in hand, the final version in hand, to do a good discussion. And the plenum was so excited, and there were so many questions from the audit. This was really something I will remember forever.
Perfect timing. I mean, you couldn't have asked for better timing. That's great.
Very right.
Well, the anticipation for this final version, it's not even a draft, it is what it is. The anticipation has been so palpable over the past handful of years, but hearing this history really helps put our conversation into contexts. Sterile manufacturing is so critical because it needs to be. People's lives are at stake. As people in this industry, we take the requirement for sterility to heart, and it really drives everything that we do. It's not just the pharma manufacturers themselves, but the suppliers, the equipment builders, the A&E firms, packaging companies. It applies to all of us. Johannes, from your perspective as a machine builder, what are the top 3 to 5 updates within the new Annex 1 that pharmaceutical manufacturers need to be concerned about?
I don't know whether the word concerned is the right word, because the new parts of Annex tackle the right things to improve further drug quality. And again, this is something we are very much focused on that. And there are more opportunities to do things even better. A major impact has the integration of risk-based approaches by integrating the contamination control strategy, CCS, and quality risk management, which we did not have before in the Annex versions. And this gives more freedom to choose what is the best for the quality in a specific situation at a site. Little downside, we also find a lot of detailed statements with numbers, which are set by default. And those limit the degree of freedom again for a risk-based approach near to zero. So if you want to deviate a little bit from something which is written in the Annex 1, you find a number and you have to keep to the number. It's hard to deviate. And even you have the best risk-based, scientifically proven approach. But that's how it is. And we will see how this will be negotiated in the next time with the agencies. The second one is the use of appropriate technologies, prominently recommended in the second chapter. This is the request to apply appropriate technologies for more separation, operator from product, with barrier systems like restricted access barrier systems or isolators. They want to have more automation, for example, with robots. And they want to have more rapid microtechniques to get better control of the microbiological cleanroom status. So faster response on microbiological samples. The whole document is full of mentioning the barrier system as the approach to go. So from now on, it will be hard to defend a new installation for an open cleanroom style. So with curtains, which we have had in the past. This will not go anymore. We even have to think of doing retrofits on existing lines, cleanroom lines.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And we will see how hard this will be required, but it will be hard to defend a cleanroom style continuing operation. The third one is the first air principle, introduced the first time into European GMP. That means that no interruption of unidirectional airflow between filters and the open product. So filters above the aseptic processing area and the open product container. And this is something which goes also through the whole Annex 1. We have many more smaller changes in the document, which have significant effects on the one or the other piece of equipment or handling practice. But diving into that means spending hours in this podcast, I feel.
I know people are excited to hear us talk, but maybe not for hours and hours.
Okay, one last point I would like to highlight. This Annex 1 comes with a glossary of 71 keywords. And the definitions are very well done. So this will be something everybody is going to reference in the future. It creates a common understanding in the pharmaceutical community.
Was that glossary included in previous versions?
No, it's the first time in an Annex 1.
Right. So what is the time frame for compliance with Annex 1?
The big part of it has to be implemented, at least for new installations, starting August 23, to be very exact, 25th of August 23. There's an exemption opened for loading, unloading of lyophilizers. There is a transition period of 2 years. And this is a clear message that a proper handling of lyo loading and unloading was so important to the EMA working group that they decided to give manufacturers more time to do true improvements. That means it does not stipulate fully automated loading, unloading systems, but taking this prominent exception in the timeline of Annex 1 into account, it does clearly mean don't go on with manual loading like before. Better retrofit with automation. If this is a fully automated system or if it's a semi-automated something, get the operator off the aseptic operation and implement automation. That's the message.
So they're saying it without saying it. We're reading between the lines a little bit, but if you're clever and when you read that, you see there's 2 years, you kind of know what they're getting at.
Yeah, correct.
Great. So how is our company, Syntegon, helping the industry adapt to all of these changes? Do we have solutions for everything?
Not yet. Syntegon has a catalog of measures to support our customers in complying with the new Annex 1, but this list is far from complete because in some cases we need a clearer view of inspectorial expectations. So there are things which can be handled the one way or the other way. So we need a little bit more experience with the authorities implementing the Annex 1. And this is exactly, and most of these question marks are in the stress field between risk-based and detailed by numbers. So we will see how this will be handled. We are happy to cooperate with our customers to find solutions which fit the requirements at their side, because we think at Syntegon, mainly in our equipment world, but the equipment is then placed in some environment at the customer, and the adaptation, the perfect adaptation makes the match with the Annex 1. Not a single piece of equipment. It's also the handling around and the standard operational procedures and all this stuff has to be integrated. And therefore, why we want to interchange and exchange with each other to get the best solution. The big question mark to me is how much has to be retrofitted on installed base. An insight I got from a German inspector, and this was, and I say it in my words, if it really improves quality and adaptation could be done with a reasonable effort, you should do it. If the effort is too much or the improvement is only incrementally, find other measures to get an optimized situation in the sense of Annex 1. So you need not to take always the full kit, but sometimes you can do steps which really improve the situation. Then you should do it.
One thing I was thinking about while you were just talking, in my intro, I said, we're not just machine builders. We really are problem solvers. So it seems like we might come up against some problems that have never been solved before, but I have no doubt that we'll be able to find solutions to every question that Annex 1 brings about.
Yes, I'm sure.
So I am here in the US. I sit at our Minneapolis site, and I'm going to be a little bit selfish here. How does Annex 1 affect the US and manufacturing in the States?
Not directly for products which are marketed in the US, but as I mentioned, first FDA is a member of PICS and was fully involved in the genesis of new Annex 1. They will not ignore it because it gives some helpful references. So I mentioned the glossary, which will be something also FDA will have an eye on. And I heard a word from an FDA inspector, and he said, it's a great training document. If this is the case, it will become important, not in the legal sense, but as an orientation and benchmark. For products manufactured in the US and then exported globally, at least to the EU and PICS countries, compliance with Annex 1 will be key.
Wow. I know there are so many interesting and relevant topics related to specific aspects of Annex 1. But if we were to go into each and every one of those, it would take us so long. It would take hours or maybe even another specific episode for each additional topic. So with that, we'll leave the topic of Annex 1 here. And what I'd love to do is transition to a new tradition that I'd like to start here at Machines in Medicine. And that is a challenge question. We're going to try to be fun here. We're going to promote continuous learning. Sometimes it's heavy, important industry topics. Sometimes it's just fun trivia. So I'd like to end every episode by trading challenge questions, very low stakes for our guests. I prepared a question for you, Johannes. Let's see if you can answer it. So in Germany and elsewhere around the world, the green Haribo gummy bears are apple flavored. What flavor are green Haribo gummy bears in the United States?
Oh,
Like I said, low stakes questions.
I just make a try. Is it kiwi?
It's not kiwi. It is strawberry. The green gummy bears are strawberry flavored. I discovered this when I was in Germany last. I love gummy bears, and I got a green gummy bear expecting a strawberry flavor, and lo and behold, I was treated to a wonderful green apple flavor. So I thought I'd share that knowledge with you. So
I have also a question to you. How many liters of beer is consuming an average German?
Oh my gosh.
Per year.
Per year? Liters. Per year. Oh, so if I overguess, that's offensive for thinking you drink too much. If I underguess, then it's offensive for not guessing it. Oh, okay. Let's say 60 liters per person per year.
No, not too bad. It's a little bit more. It's 100 liters.
Okay.
And it was much more a few years ago. So in the 70s, it was like 150 liters, but now it's at 100. I'm not one of them, but of this average, I'm far below, but quite a fascinating figure. And imagine 100 liters is a lot of liquid.
That's a lot of beer. Yes, it is. But spread out over 365 days. Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, very good. Well, I like your question. I like kicking off this podcast with a little bit of fun. And I think we both learned something here today. So now I have taken up so much of your time. I would like to thank you, Dr. Johannes Roschnabel, for being our first guest here on Machines in Medicine. I think you really helped us to define this topic and understand more about what's behind it.
Yeah, thank you. And it was a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you to our audience, too, for listening in and joining us for our first episode. We had a lot of fun in the creation and recording here and look forward to future episodes with a wide variety of industry experts.